That's over 8 years old, but that only came to light 8 weeks ago. What we're about to show you is nothing of the crime itself, but of the painstaking investigation that went into identifying the victim. The process led to a whole new set of questions, and hence to this appeal. Our film begins in Cardiff on the 7th of December at a house that's under renovation. Wrapped in polythene and a roll of carpet was what looked like a human skeleton. When the police had checked out the finding, a major inquiry was launched. Within days, 80 officers had been brought in on the case, led by Detective Chief Superintendent John Williams.
We faced a dilemma at this time, having only the skeletal remains with nothing else whatsoever. We first of all sent it to an odontologist, a Dr. Whitaker of Cardiff.
Once one's presented with the specimen, it's important to try to get information from it without damaging it initially. And so we usually use X-rays or take a radiograph like this. You can see here that inside the jawbones, and in the top jaw here as well, there are a large number of teeth that haven't yet come through into the mouth. And you can see that they are still undergoing development. And we know how long it takes for that kind of root to grow, so it's obvious that from that information we could work out exactly how old this individual was when they died.
He was able to tell us that the body was that of a female, probably aged between 14 to 17 years of age, and indeed he was able further to tell us that it was probably of a young girl aged about 15 and a half to 16 years of age.
It wasn't much to go on, but the police now knew not just the victim's age, but height, sex, and approximate date of death. At the incident room in Norbury Road in Cardiff, a search was made of missing persons files, and they began the laborious task of tracing everyone who'd lived in any of the dozen bedsits at 27 and 29 Fitzhamon Embankment, where the body had been found.
We then consulted Richard Neve, a medical illustrator from Manchester University. We sent him the skull, and from that he was able to build up for us a facial impression from the skeleton.
Using models, Richard Neve explains how the victim's face was recreated.
The first thing to do is, of course, to prepare the skull so that the face can be built on it. Next stage is to take the plaster skull and then to mark 21 points over the face, and these are the sites from which measurements have been taken of soft tissue thickness. And holes are drilled in here and pegs inserted, and the pegs represent the average thickness of soft tissue to be found on the human face at these particular sites. So that means that when the face is built over the skull, it is not just a matter of imagination, it is done quite deliberately.
This turned out to be a striking likeness. You may not have known this girl by name, but do you recall her from the early 1980s? This picture was issued nationwide and made front pages in South Wales.
Oh, hello. I think I recognise the girl in the picture.
Hello, I'm telephoning about the photograph of the girl in the paper.
As a result of a massive publicity campaign, 2 social workers rang the incident room at Cardiff and gave us the name of the person that they thought resembled the impression. We were then able to get dental records, which we took to the odontologist, and as a result of that, we were able to identify the remains in the carpet as that of the girl, Karen Price, from Cardiff.
Karen was 15 when this photograph was taken, a few months before she disappeared. She'd been in care since she was 10, but in July 1981, she absconded from the Miser Eglise Assessment Centre in Pontypridd. Very little is known about what happened to her from then on. but she was known to hang around the bus station at Wood Street, opposite Cardiff Central Railway Station. Detectives are very anxious for any help they can get from anyone who knew Karen or thinks they might have met her. This is Big Astie's Cafe, just in front of the bus station. Did you eat here in the summer of 1981? When Karen had run away from homes before, and she'd done so several times, she often came here for a coffee. And in the early 80s, lots of youngsters used to hang around outside the Empire Pool in Wood Street. Do you remember Karen? Above all, did you live opposite Cardiff Arms Park, across the Taff, at Bedsits in Fitzhamon Embankment? Detectives are determined to find everyone who lived here in the late 70s or early 80s, especially if you stayed in numbers 27 or 29. John Williams, there'll be people already reaching for the phones, I'm sure, and I suspect there'll be others who are hesitating, a bit worried that if they ring in, they're going to catapult themselves into the middle of a murder inquiry, might even be regarded as suspects.
No, I would like to reassure these people that they would be purely treated as friendly witnesses. We are appealing for information from them, so please come forward.
Now, there must have been a lot of people who knew Karen after she left Maes Eglwys, the assessment centre, in July 1981. I mean, where did she sleep? Where did she eat? Where did she wash?
That's quite right. She was in and around that city centre area, and someone must have befriended her and certainly seen her. And I would ask these people now, even after 8 years, when they may have moved away from Cardiff, to come forward and contact us.
If anybody befriended her, it might be a real friend now, and ring in. This is the sort of clothes you think she was wearing, a sort of grey sweatshirt, and these are very distinctive. These jeans, distinctive really, they're called Carmen Gear. They're out of production now, aren't they? But it's the colour, really.
That's quite right, yes. They're plum-coloured, and there's, without a doubt, she was wearing those at the time of her death.
That house again, 2729 Fitzhamon Embankment, which is the place where she was found and where you suspect she might have been staying. You don't know, but we need to know anyone else who was staying there. And here's the number, 01811 8055. The time, remember, we're talking about is summer and late summer 1981 in particular. 01811 8055. Or you can call the incident room in Cardiff on 0222 398 381. That's 0222, the code for Cardiff, 398 381.